بسم الله.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, welcome to another session with Arsh, Ellahi, where we'll be talking about property and business advice. Thank you for all the welcoming comments and messages that we've had over the last week. I'm actually very excited today because normally you hear me babble on for an hour and a half. I thought, well, how can we make this more interesting? And today we've got a very interesting guest. We've got a young gentleman to the name of Nadeem. Hi, Nadeem. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum, Arshad, I'm very well.
Okay, so can everyone hear Nadeem okay? Just if you can give us a quick thumbs up, thumbs down, that'd be fantastic. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing something slightly different. We're going to be, me and Nadeem, we're going to have a quick conversation because Nadeem's very, very experienced in the business world. He's going to be telling us a little bit about what he does, how he got started, where it all came from, where the concept came from, and how he's grown his business quite rapidly, shall we say, over a period of years. I suppose before we should go into that, if you've got any questions, please feel free to call the studio on 01902 972 150. As always, you can WhatsApp us in the studio, which is 07440 420 432. So, let's get straight into it. So, Nadeem, are you ready?
Ready, raring to go.
Right, okay. So, how do we do that?
Technical glitch already.
Yeah, no. It's not a technical glitches, but okay. So brilliant. So Nadeem, do you want to just introduce yourself? So who is Nadeem? So for those that don't know who Nadeem is, tell us all about you.
Okay, so Nadeem Ahmed, I'm the son of Bashir Ahmed, who I should imagine the majority of Wolverhampton would know. I'm now coming to 50 years young this year. Started Northern Gas Heating back in 1999, 2000. So Northern Gas Heating, central heating company based in Wolverhampton. We started locally doing installations with gas engineers. Just want to point out, I know nothing about gas myself, never fitted a boiler. But we managed to, mashallah, have a successful operation, branched out up and down the country, and that's how the journey sort of began. Never knew I'd ever actually go into central heating. It was more sales as opposed to heating, and the product just sort of happened to come about from the position I was in employment.
Don't give it away all too soon yet.
No,
We've got a long way to go yet. We've got 90 minutes.
I was trying to finish it all off in about 10 minutes and get going.
Oh dear. So okay. So you said that your father, did he start the business off?
No, not at all. So my father, he was in manufacturing. So he started a company called Milford Clothing.
Okay.
And that was, I think, in 1978, 79, around that era. I was 7, 8 years of age.
So let's start right there then, because part of being in business is all a journey. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So 7 to 8 years old, were you one of these kids that was allowed to go out and play football with your mates, or were you one of these kids that, come on, son, let's come to the factory with me?
Well, I used to sneak out to go and play football.
Right, okay.
So I used to sneak out to go and play football while Dad and my beautiful mother was at the factory doing the work and everything. And by the time they get home, I was always to make sure I'm home, so there wouldn't be any none the wiser, so to speak. But I think the age of 10, 11, we started helping Dad cut the threads, bag the clothes. There was a company called Gladrags in Bilston. So Dad's first business was called Gladrags in partnership with this guy. And Barbara Windsor from the Carry On films, she came and opened the first shop. And I think that was about 77, 78. And then I think in 81, 82, mashallah, Dad's business was absolutely flying, making ladies' clothes, etc. And I think 1982, he bought his own premises on Drayton Street, called it Milford Clothing, because the first unit he had was on Milford Road. So the name he thought of was Milford Clothing at that time.
Absolutely, as you do.
As you do. It was very agorified name, so Milford seemed quite right for Dad. The actual business, so Dad carried on with his business. Myself, my sisters, we used to go there, you know, the threading, the buttons and the bagging, collecting the
What
women.
was it like back then? Because I can imagine back then it was still quite a manual. It was still quite a manual trade.
It was all manual. So everything was manual, from picking up the rolls of cloth from downstairs, coming in and taking them, lugging them all the way upstairs. So this is obviously when I was getting older, you know, 14, 15, laying down the cloth on Dad's massive cutting table. I remember Dad cutting the cloth, and a few times he literally cut his finger with this machine, and it's like horrifying, blood everywhere. But it was all good, enjoyable times. You know, there seemed to be a lot of time in those days for everything, for work, for play, for family, for everything. So yeah, it was very, very enjoyable times.
Okay. So lots of good childhood memories.
Absolutely. Even to the, you know, even when we look back prior to Mum and Dad with the business, and there was, you know, the house that we lived in was very small. There was 7 of us.
You're one of 7? One of 5?
One of 5. 7,
Okay.
including obviously my beloved mother, Allah give her Jannah al-Firdaus, and my father. So when we look back, and we had very little at that time, financially and everything, but we had family unity, and we had a great time growing up. You know, I remember my mum, Abdul Ghani, Allah give him Jannah al-Firdaus, and my cousins and everything. Blackpool was our regular holiday. 2 transit vans, a few sofas in the back, and off we used to go to Blackpool. Couldn't go to the fun fair. We could go to the beach.
Did you have chips?
Chips, of course. Chips was a must. Sit in the vans, in the back of the van, and look at the lights. Which
What was the highlight? Was it the chips, or was it the packed lunch, or shall we say the paratha and the bananas and the apples and pears that your mum would pack in the basket?
You know, thinking about the chips, I don't think we were allowed chips for the first 4 or 5 years of Blackpool holidays. I think it was packed lunch, paratha, roti, and so on the beach. There was a destination that we used to go to, a certain location that the elders were fixated with. So we must be in that position, and we must be sitting down, and that's what we must be doing.
But to be fair, when we look at films like today, everyone has seen East is East.
Absolutely.
Whether you love it or you hate it, everyone has seen East is East. Even our technical guy today is smiling. He's seen, and he's a young guy. But it was a true reflection of childhood, wasn't it?
It was. I think if I remember when we used to go to read Quran, so it was on Dudley Road, and we had to go through what used to be called in those days the flats, and in the flats there was like a little slide and swings and so on. And there's myself, my sisters, my cousins, and everything. We used to all go down, and sometimes we would make the lesson for the ground, and other times we just end up on the swings all day. But it was a very relaxed atmosphere. And then it went to Gracie School, I think. It moved on to Gracie School, where the Grant teaching. And this is before Waterloo Road Masjid at the time was very small and quite far. Vehicles and so on wasn't as easy and accessible as what they are nowadays. But yeah, the time and the day of the 70s and 80s is totally different to what we're going through now.
We've got. Would you say that we've got so many more pressures to? Well, I suppose we've got 2 different types of pressures, because back in the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, the pressure was for our parents survival. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it was 2 things: survival, but also family. The unity of the family, and TVs. You know, if you recall, I think what was it? I can't remember the size of the TV. It wasn't big. It was black and white. I remember the first.
And we only had 4 choices.
For TV stations?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, mate, you're slightly older than me, so.
It was, I think it was BBC One, ITV, and maybe BBC Two.
Right, okay.
So there's 2, I think it started with, then 3. It was black and white. It used to go off at 12 o'clock, I think, at midnight. it was watching programs that no one would ever watch now. You know, Starsky and Hutch and The Liver Birds, which is a comedy filmed in Liverpool. All these things that you probably wouldn't watch. Man from Atlantis, Dallas, the soap opera. But it was all black and white, and then it became colour, and then the video VCR came about. I think I was 12 or 13, so 82, 83 when we had a VCR, and then it was just Indian Bollywood films.
Well, for the kids that are listening to this, and for the millennials, VHS was video. VHS was video, and to be fair, it wasn't a case that we could fast forward. Well, it took ages to get to a point where you wanted it to be. Like now, we're spoilt with Sky, we're spoilt with Netflix.
Let's not forget the remote control was actually attached to the video, so there's a big wire going from where the video recorder was located all the way to where you're sitting down.
Yeah, but to be fair, I'm kind of grateful that we came through this era.
Yeah.
I'm kind of grateful that we came through this era. And, you know, when we talk about the reason why I talk about my childhood and the background is because it's formed a lot of the stuff. It's formed the way that the people that we've become today. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think we've become what we've become today because of our parents. You know, it's like the teachings. They teach us the right and the wrong. So we look up to them. The respect that we have for our parents. They're there to put us right. Tell us how we should be with people. And I think that's what we become. And then that's what we try and instill into our children. And then we've got that extra firepower ourselves. So, you know, they could be a bit more, like you said, I think at the beginning, when our parents came, it was all about survival. So they've done their survival. They put us where we have. We then, they sort of, if you like, lay the foundations. It's for us to then take those foundations with the ability that they gave us, and obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for us to then move it and take it to another level.
Absolutely, completely agree. They created the foundations. It's up to us to what we did and how we did it.
Yeah.
Which has allowed us to get to where we are today.
Yeah, and respect was a big thing. So if you go back to, again, in those days, so our parents were the first generation, if you like, here. My granddad came, I think it was late 30s. So he was one of the very, very early adopters. And my late Mum Abdul Ghani, he was young when he first came. I think he was about 12 or 13 into this country. Why they settled in Wolverhampton, I have no idea. When we could have gone,
I still don't know that answer. Like I asked my dad, you know, God rest his soul, is that I said to him, Dad, why Wolverhampton? I said, you could have gone anywhere in the world and you could have gone anywhere in the UK. He goes, that's where the taxi driver took me. And he goes, I came here with £3, and then the £3 that I had, that's where the taxi driver thought, you know what, I'm making a £3 fee here.
Yeah.
So that's where £3 took him.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've asked many times why Wolverhampton. London should have been the place. The opportunity in London, imagine if we was in London, what could have happened. But having said that, you know, mashallah, Wolverhampton's a beautiful city, as it is now. And we're happy for what we have. But going back to what I was saying is, the difference is the respect factor. So we respect, still do, our elders, whether that's our parents, our uncles or aunties, and people in general. And that was a great facet of our generation. So our parents, the first generation being here, coming here, we in effect are the first generation to be born and bred and raised here in this country. So we've upheld our parents' values, we've upheld their morals and their beliefs. And it's important, therefore, that we instill that into our children going forward. Otherwise, these values will get lost and these morals will get lost. And we can see it happening in parts of the world here already as well. And that's probably because of things like social media and so on, which, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm not too sure about.
I think we have to, you know, one thing that we're going to talk about, especially in business, is embrace change.
Yeah.
And if COVID has taught us nothing else, is that we have to adapt. We have to, we've come through something that I don't think anyone would have ever thought we'd go through in our timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if we look at COVID now and the changes, the effect it's going to have, someone coughing or sneezing will probably be as bad as Agora seeing a guy with a beard and a rucksack and on his back walking down London Bridge. I'm not sure what's worse, someone sneezing or a guy with a rucksack walking down London Bridge. But what I'm saying is that it's going to change the whole outlook on how people meet people, how people greet people going forward.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, we look, and let's just briefly touch on COVID. We look at what's going on around the world now. Dubai released lockdown, and within the space of a week, they're back in lockdown.
Yeah.
And that's just purely because people didn't embrace it enough, or they're not insured. And so, with all due respect, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room, that the Asian community, we're not the greatest at following rules. We think, oh no, don't worry about it. Don't worry, it's only if you were to ask my mom, don't worry, it's only a flu.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, just to let listeners know, when I saw Arsh outside in the car park, he greeted me with a handshake. So and when
You're not meant to say that. He does that as he puts sanitizer on his hands.
But no, going back to COVID, I think it has changed and is going to change how we see things, how we view things, how we do things.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just conscious. Can everyone hear Nadeem? Okay. I'm just making sure that he's nice and loudly and clear, because he's got a lot to share, and I completely appreciate that. Going forward, there's going to be people are going to be a little bit skeptical. Going to be a little bit skeptical. What do you do? Do you handshake?
Yeah.
Do you just wave from a distance? Yeah. But we've got to be careful. There's been a lot of deaths. There's been a lot of things happening. Yeah. And we've just got to make sure that we keep ourselves safe.
But it seems also so surreal.
Yep.
So when you look at the whole thing, and see the news, listen to what's going on, it just doesn't add up. It makes no sense. And you think, is something actually happening? And I don't know about yourself, but if I look at all the people I know up and down the country, relations, friends, family, people at work, engineers, etc., and mashallah, the great news is there's only 2 people I know out of all the people, if you like, who've lost someone to COVID-19. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it. I know people that have lost it from COVID-19. I know, with all due respect, I know quite a few. And again, God rest their soul. Yeah. But moving it on then, what I suppose we should say in terms of COVID, and it's become quite a big topic, I suppose, for every show. What's that done to your workforce? So you've got people that normally would work in an office environment. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a mixture of everything. We normally have 45 plus people in an office environment. We'd then have surveyors and service engineers, as well as engineers on the road visiting people. So when we looked at COVID, and in all fairness, I sort of embraced the change a bit earlier than most people, and that's because of Waterloo Road Masjid. There was meetings taking place with doctors, and they were telling us about the severity of COVID and what we should do here in Wolverhampton to stay protected, etc. So in London, if you recall, it started in London on a big scale. People were getting the virus and deaths were taking place. So these meetings were taking place, and I then started looking at my own business. How do I, the business that we have is like a family. These people have been there for a long time. There's a lot of things, and it's a case of their safety. What can we do to keep them safe, but also at the same time keep the business running? So I think it was probably a week, 10 days before the announcement. We started putting plans in action, sanitizers, leaving all the doors open so there's less touching and feeding. We've got a gym in the office, so we closed the gym down so there's no use of the gym. There's a kitchen canteen area. We closed that down as well. We've got antibacterial wipes and all these kind of things, and said to people that if you're going to eat, you're going to eat on your desks. And then you clean your own workstation, and you clean your own desk every 2-3 hours. So there's a lot of stuff that we put in place. The external people, we equipped them with gloves and masks and coveralls, and told them what to do, the do's and don'ts. Spoke to customers to make sure that they've, one, not been affected, number two, they're not been to a country where this virus is predominant in. And and as time went on, we then started moving people to work from homes. So the office staff, I think one thing we realise is with office staff, a lot of them can work from home, but it's how you police them. When you're in the office, you can police people a lot easier than remotely or externally.
We'll talk about policing shortly, because policing can also be determined, depending on how you look at it, a level of control. Now, I'll be guilty, and I'll put my hands up. I'm a bit of a control freak. I love things being done a certain way. And even today, like, I've got a PA, and she's been saying to me, Fran, bless her, she's fantastic at what she does, and I know that she's listening. And she said, well, what about this? And I said, Fran, no, we want it this way. And, you know, if she's in the office, we could have done it in pretty much half the time. It's just a case of trying to communicate it. I don't know, from your point of view, that it's that control, and also being able to, going back to the old school way of thinking, touching and feeling and seeing it happen.
Yeah. So I'm a great believer in doing what the job should be done, how the job should be done, before you tell anyone else how to do it. So you need to understand it. However, having said all this, remember, my business is gas, and I cannot fit a gas boiler. But I have enough understanding of gas where I know engineers can't pull the wool over my eyes because of the amount of time and the length of time I've been in it. But when it comes to the office, you know, ringing customers, complaints, accounts, all these things, I think it's important for me to make sure that I excel. I'm better than what they do, because only then I can teach them. They'll give me the respect for them to listen to me. If I don't know, you know, I'm telling them, advising them what to do, and I don't know myself, then the respect level goes. And if the respect level goes, the work part and the ethic goes. And when that goes, then the productivity of the work goes as well, doesn't it? So it has a knock-on effect. But policing, yes. Control, yes. I think when you're younger, but as you get older, you want to give and relinquish that control to your senior managers and your senior directors for them to do the policing and the control. Otherwise, you know, you're just working all hours God sent, and touching and feeling and doing everything yourself. And I think as you get older, certainly for myself, you want to sort of learn to relax a bit more. Yeah.
Okay. No. Point taken. I'm still learning as well. You know, with all due respect, been in it a while, and I'm still learning. I learn every day. Yeah. I try and learn every day. And one of the things that I say to everyone is that you should try and become a better person than you were yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that can be in many different ways. That could be mentally, that could be physically, that could be spiritually.
Yeah.
And the things that you do, you know, I can't announce that I'm the world's best Muslim. I won't say that I am the world's best Muslim, but I try. I step forward every day. I was listening to a guy yesterday, and he goes, one of the things that you should do every morning is provide yourself with positive affirmations. Now, for those that don't know who affirmations are, these are things that you should say to yourself to give yourself a positive boost. And I've never really done this. And this guy was saying, stand in the mirror and tell everyone that you're the best thing that's ever happened. I thought, is this guy crazy?
Is he on steroids?
Is
he a weightlift on steroids and looks through the mirror as he's just done 50 press-ups?
He does, yeah. And I thought, well, hang on. He goes, no, but he goes, if you do that, he goes, if you say that you're going to be a better person than you were yesterday, and you say it with enough conviction that you actually start to believe it. And as a result of starting to believe it, it gives you enough of a positive vibe so that everyone that you're in contact with gets exactly the same vibe off them. Yeah. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll get that. Whether I adopt that and then whether I approach that is completely different. So,
but you do look like the type to look in the mirror to say, look, I am great, and so on.
I look in the mirror and I thought, flipping heck.
But look, I think it's positivity breeds positivity.
Absolutely.
You know, happiness breeds happiness, and so on. So it's important, you know, when you are in business and you're sort of leading from the front, you got to be positive. You got to be on your A game all the time, because if there's a lapse,
it's almost like you're on show. Would you agree?
100%.
Because when you walk in, if you're the leader, and let's just imagine Boris Johnson. Yeah. Now, lots of people criticise him because of the way he looks, and you know, with his hairstyle and stuff like that.
He could do with a haircut.
He could do with a haircut, you know, but he's done a. Let's just put it out there. He's done a phenomenal job.
Well, time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. But so far, what he's doing and with what Rishi has done, they've they've pulled a lot of things out of the bag that no one else. I think if you look at the historic of all the people that we've had, the Tony Blairs, the David Camerons, the Theresa Mays, would they have give us that level of support to keep the economy running as we've done so far? So, Nadeem, I suppose what we should do, we'll leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger there, because we've literally got a couple of seconds before we go into an ad break. But have a think about that, guys. And more importantly, if you agree with what we're saying, feel free to call us into the studio. We're on for another hour yet. So call 01902 972 150, or alternatively, you can WhatsApp us in the studio on 07440 420 432. Feel free to ask Nadeem some questions. Ask him some questions like, where did he get started? What was he doing? Why gas? Why not, he could have gone into anything else. Why not? Feel free to ask as many questions. This is your time. If you've got any business-related questions. Hi guys, welcome back to the session. Again, my name is Arsh, Ellahi, and today I'm very privileged to be joined by Nadeem. Nadeem, do you want to say hello?
Hello to all listeners out there.
Fantastic. Okay, so before the break, Nadeem, we were talking about what were we talking about?
I don't know. We seem to be flipping and toing and froing from different subjects, from COVID to business to I've totally forgotten actually.
Okay, so we were talking about some of the things that Boris Johnson.
That's his haircut. Boris's haircut.
We talked about Boris Johnson, and we talked about David Cameron, Theresa May. So let's get moving straight on to that. So your business. We talked just before the break about your childhood. Where did the idea of setting up? What's the best way of describing what sector would you say that you're in? Would you say that you're in the renewable energy sector? Would you say that you're in the gas industry, or?
So it started to be, when we first launched, it was the gas sector, gas installation sector. And then as time went on, it became the renewable technology. So I think
for those that don't know, do you want to just simplify that? So if someone was to say to you, Nadeem, you've got 20 seconds, simplify it for layman's terms. What exactly do you do?
So central heating boilers in private homes, that's private market, and people on benefits, which I'll explain a bit later on. Renewable technology. So when you walk down the road or drive in your car and you see these panels fitted on people's rooftops that generate electric, that is renewable technology. So that generates electric. You've got parts that generate hot water and parts that generate heating. So all renewable technology, and we'll go into it a bit later on because there's a bit of time to kill here, I think.
Okay. No, we've got lots to talk about. Okay, so let's get moving on. So you started this in early 2000s.
Yeah.
So, okay, one of the questions that we get quite often on the show is, where did this all come about? Where did the concept come about, or where did the idea come from? Because we know your background, that your father was in the textile industry.
Yeah. So I started working after my studies at the age of 22, 23. And it was a company in Birmingham. So it was kitchens. It's the company that people out there will probably know as Shop, Bathrooms, Moban Kitchens Direct. It was for them on their marketing side in Birmingham at the age of 22, 23. And I then somehow from office space fell into their sales side. So on the sales side, they gave people a car allowance, a mobile phone, and if you think back to 1993, mobile phones were a new thing. So everyone wanted to have one of these bricks, so to speak, in those days. And if you're a salesperson, one of the perks of the jobs was a mobile phone. So I became a salesperson. I actually became a very good salesperson, selling alarms to people for £1,500. So the appointments were booked. We used to go and see 2-3 people a day. Most of these people were people looking for a security system, and we'd walk out, or I would walk out with a sale of an alarm system, £1,500, and it just sort of developed from there. The Midlands Electricity Board, who now people know as NPower or SSE, etc., etc., they had a part of their business which was home improvements. So they were doing kitchens and bathrooms, electric rewiring, storage heaters, and also alarm systems. And a lot of people that worked where I worked left and started going to MEB. 2 reasons. One, the prices were cheaper, so they could go and sell at a cheaper price. Number 2, the pay was sort of better. And in fact, the third reason was it was a Midlands Electricity Board, so the credibility. They said it's easy. There's some good friends, good people I knew. So they went there and they kept saying to me, Nadine, you must come over. But I stayed loyal to the people where I was. I was getting promoted. From a salesperson, I became a sales manager within 7-8 months. And I was happy with as a young lad, working in an environment of 40, 50-year-olds. And I think I was the only Asian there as well. The rest were all Gore and that's it, Gore really. So I stayed there for about 1.5 years, 2 years, really enjoyed my time. I started progressing until the MEB themselves. So the MEB contracted their work, their sales and marketing out to a company called Circa Marketing. And they heard things about me. They thought I was this absolute great salesperson. I was young, and they kept asking to come and work for them. And eventually, I think 7-8 months of them continuously asking and offering me a package that I couldn't refuse, I eventually went to their selling alarm systems. And it's actually a funny story. So imagine this company being after me for such a long time to go and work there. So I eventually give in to the power of money, as we all do. And I go there thinking, okay, I'm selling alarm systems. Their alarm system is sort of half the price than to what I'm used to selling. It's MEB, so I've got the MEB badge. I don't really need to sell. I just walk in. People just automatically buy. So I started there, and I think for 3 weeks I didn't sell one system. Not one system.
So you go from a sales machine to, at the moment, non-performer.
Total failure.
Right, okay.
So these people...
Do you mind if I ask then? And I suppose this is going to be really important for the listeners.
Yeah.
What did that do for your confidence?
Nothing really.
Right, okay.
Because I was a cheeky chappy, young cheeky chappy, with a proven record. So when I started hearing sort of rumours and echoes in the back, people saying, I thought he's meant to be good. We paid him extra money to come here and he can't sell. What's going on? I started sort of self-analysing myself. Why am I not selling? What is the purpose? Why am I failing? What's the reason behind this? And then I realised what the reason was. It was simple. Even though the price was half the price, so even though instead of a £1,500 alarm system, it was £800 alarm system, and even though it had the credibility of the electric company, which is MEB, I wasn't doing the most important thing, selling it. It's not the price, it's not the credibility, it's me and what I say and what I do to the customer. I need to get them to believe in me. And if I get them to believe in me, they'll believe in the product. And that's where I was failing, whereas before, I was getting them to believe in me and the product.
Okay. And so once you understood that part...
Then things totally changed. It was literally 30, 35 alarm systems week in, week out. I was their biggest and best salesperson that they had.
And was this telesales?
No, this is door to door. This is physically going into people's homes. So they used to have people ring up saying, look, I'd like to have an alarm system. Can someone come out to give me a quotation? So they'll book an appointment. Now remember, again, this is 93, 94. If your name's Charlie, Ben, Tom, or Tim, it's not an issue. Your doors are open, because the people that you're seeing in those days are your Mr. and Mrs. Smiths and so on. When your name's Nadeem Ahmed, it's a bit different. So when I used to knock on the people's doors and they used to see me, being an Asian guy, and I remember going to some people's houses and the expression and their look on their faces. But my job was my purpose of there was to do one job. And my job was to sell them something and to walk out, because whatever I put in their house, they inadvertently put into my back pocket through sales and commission, etc., etc. So it was hard. It wasn't easy. So selling to people in their own homes in 94, 93, 94, with the conversion rate lifestyle I had of those days, was an achievement in itself. And to go to someone like MEB, who had an abundance of salespeople, and to be one of the youngest and the only Asian there, was also an achievement in itself.
Fantastic. In that respect, you, in compared to where we are today, we can look at it from all different types of angles. The fact is that it was pretty much cold calling and door knocking, and then you had to go there, and with all the things, odds stacked against you, you still got a sale.
Yeah, so it wasn't so much door knocking. I wouldn't go and knock the door. I'd go on, if you like, a ready-made appointment.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So someone.
But on the phone,
yeah.
they already they never thought, okay, it's this brown lad on the phone.
No,
but
I wasn't on the phone either.
Okay.
So if you look at the MEB, they would send out letters to people to say, look, we're doing alarms, or we're doing the kitchen, or whatever the case would be. People would then ring in and say, yeah, we're interested. Can we have a quotation? So you'd have a person in the office, in the MEB offices, a scheduler. They would plan the appointments for the people, and we would then turn up at that allotted time to go and see Mr. and Mrs. Smith in their home, and so-called give them a quotation.
So at what point then? So where does this go from alarms to gas?
So on the alarm side, MEB then decides to go to central heating, gas central heating. So around about 95, 96, the gas and electric market, which was regulated and a monopoly as such, became sort of, the government decided to decommission it, and it was a free for all. So the gas company could sell electric, the electric companies could sell gas, etc., etc. So to make the industry more competitive. MEB at that time then thought, well, British Gas are doing central heating. Why don't we look at doing central heating? So they started doing. Their target was to do £1 million. I think it was 95 and 96, but they didn't ask me to do it. They got ex-British Gas people in to come in and set their sales teams up and go out and do what they need to do. I was still at the time selling alarm systems, and sort of got promoted to be the manager of the alarm section for the sales side. They were failing on the heating side. They were failing miserably on their target. So they had £1 million that they needed to sell on sales, and I think in month 4 they probably reached around about £250,000, just over. And the reason being is because they were doing exactly what I did when I first went. They weren't selling; they were quoting. And if you're quoting, then people work on price. If you sell, then people work on, place the order based on what you do and what you're about. They then asked me to come on the central heating side and said, could I have a look at the heating? And before I knew it, without even understanding what central heating was about, they've made me an appointment. And I'll never forget this. It was an appointment made in West Bromwich. And it was a customer that wanted, I think the MEB ran an advert in the Express and Star newspaper. So I've had no technical sales training on heating. I've had no technical training, know nothing about central heating. Didn't even really know what a gas boiler was, because in those days they just worked. We just turned the tap on, we got hot water and so on. And I remember going to this customer's house, and one thing I possessed was the ability of communication with these people. So I walk into the house, started talking to both Mr. and Mrs., got on very well, came to then the discussions about the heating, didn't really know what I was talking about. They had a conservatory. And if you imagine, you got this conservatory, and I'm walking around the house because, you got to pretend that you know what you're talking about, what all this is about. And I'm walking around the house looking at the radiators, don't really know what I'm looking at. Go to the conservatory, and he's asking me where would we position the boiler. So I'm thinking, okay, this conservatory looks like a nice little place. And I said, well, put the boiler here. It's just, imagine a window conservatory. And I didn't even know that the boiler had to be fitted on a wall, let alone a window wall. He's then saying to me, okay, where would you fit the hot tank? So I'm thinking, hot tank, what's a hot tank? So I positioned the hot tank next to the boiler. And he's asking about the cold tank, where the cold tank go. So I'm trying to envisage. Remember, I've just been given this customer to go and see as a first appointment with no training, no nothing. So I'm just trying to position in this conservatory a boiler, a cold tank, a hot tank, thinking it looked really nice in this conservatory, all neatly put together. And I actually got the sale. And I went back and I got the sale. And the engineer went out, and they couldn't obviously do the installation because it was all totally wrong. And that's how my first 10 days started. Going out, selling it, but knowing nothing. Eventually they gave me some technical training, and I enjoyed central heating. What I realised with central heating was there was gas engineers, so you had British Gas. And because it was British Gas, all they were doing was going in. They had no competition. The price of MEB were much higher than that of British Gas. And once I grasped the technical part, the order book, literally £750,000 business was sold within about 6 months. And I so much enjoyed central heating because it was a need, it was a desire, and it had a very high order value. And to give you an idea about order value, just so people understand central heating, when central heating first came out, it was the same price of a mini car.
Right, okay. So it's very expensive.
Very expensive. If you now look at the price of a mini car and look at the price of central heating, it's all gone opposite sides.
Okay, that's interesting. So you've learned your trade. I suppose to someone listening to now, they're thinking, well, okay, how can I relate this back to how can I start? You've got to learn from somewhere.
Yeah.
So you've got to learn from somewhere. So you started, and lots of people, like the guys that I had on from last week from Eurofit.
Yeah. Good old Rash.
Good old Rash.
Yes.
Yeah. So he started from working with another automotive.
Just quickly, I just want to ask one thing. When Rash was here last week, how many cushions did you have to put on his chair so he could reach the microphone?
Oh, dear me.
Or was it step ladders?
No, he was actually standing up where you're sitting now. So he's a lovely guy, and he learnt his trade from working for, in essence, now what is his competition.
Yeah.
And what he did, he learned what he needed to do, how he needed to do it, and thought, to be fair, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I suppose the theme has remained the same with yourself.
Mine was slightly different. So when I was doing the selling, I then got promoted to a manager very quickly on the heating side. And then from the powerhouse, I don't know if you remember the powerhouse. How old are you, by the way, Arsh?
I look 18, but I am actually 39.
You're 39. Okay, so I'm not sure if you was around for the power. Do you remember the powerhouse?
Yeah, Powerhouse was over in Tipton, wasn't it?
No, that was the MEB.
Oh, right, yeah.
So Powerhouse, do you remember British Gas shops in the Manchester?
Yes, yeah, and then they turned to, we had Powerhouse shops
then
as well.
So you had Midlands electricity shops, the electric companies had shops, and they became Powerhouse. So Powerhouse then said, look, we want to sell central heating as well. And from MEB, remember the company Circa Marketing, so they did all the sales and marketing for the electric companies, MEB, Southern Electricity, who was then in those days also Southern Electricity, Powerhouse, etc. The managing director of Circa Marketing saw central heating as a great opportunity. So he promoted me, I think by the age of 27, 28, I was a sales director. I had sales staff under me, and we was doing extremely well on heating. The issue we had wasn't the sales part element, but the issue he had was the engineers. Engineers in those days, it was a limited trade. It was mainly done via schools and apprenticeships, and I think they numbered roughly about 25, 30,000 or so engineers. Central heating was a new commodity as well. You know, it's mainly electric, storage heating, etc. As the sales order books increased, the installation orders were taking longer and longer to fulfill. And I remember seeing him one day and say, look, if you let me run the installation side, I think I can have enough, get the control and get this order book all sorted. But he always wanted to keep the sales and the installation part separate. To the point where the electric companies, they were getting complaints from customers. You know, some installs were taking 2 months to fit. So imagine, Arsh, you spending £5,000+ on a heating system, and then that product not being installed for 2 months. You're not going to be the best pleased, are you?
No, absolutely not.
So complaints from great sales and everything taking place. The order book kept getting longer and longer. And then he came to me and said, look, we need to look at the central heating aspect, and I'm thinking of starting a separate heating company, and I want you to be managing director. And I think this was around about 97. I want you to be managing director. I want you to control the installations and the sales. And you name your price. So I went back and I thought about it long and hard, and I spoke to my parents. And one thing I've always had, mashallah, which I've been very blessed with, is the support of my family, from not just my mum and dad, you know, and their du'as and everything, but also my sisters, and indeed my brother-in-laws, and also my wife. So I've always had the support from everyone around me. No obstacles, no hurdles. Whatever you think is right, Nadeem, you should do. And at that time, that was the same thing that said to me. Not like, well, why do you want to start your own business? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to start from scratch? But it was a case of, do what you want to do. And my thinking then was, do I want to be managing director for this guy who ultimately still is in charge of the business? Or should I just go and do it myself? And that was in the era where central heating wasn't common. So not many people knew about central heating. You had British Gas, and now we've got the electric companies into it. And you might have a few gas engineers doing private installs here, there, and everywhere. And after 3-4 days, thinking about it long and hard, I thought, I don't do it for him. I'll do it myself. So I started, I think it was 98, 99, on Dudley Road.
Okay.
So
why Dudley Road?
My mother and father had a shop there. It was a fashion shop. It was run by my sisters. So it was set up for them when they were younger, but they got married. So as they got married, the clothes shop wasn't brilliant, so to speak. And it was lying there. And as they were closing that, or it was sort of dying away, that building was sort of lying there. So if anyone knows Dudley Road, the shops, it's the 3 stories. So you've got your shop front, and then you've got another middle floor, and then another sort of like a big attic room. And I started, I don't know why, but it wasn't on the shop floor. It was on the middle room. And it was a room probably the size of this, which is what, 12 by 12? 12 foot by 12 foot. With one desk, one chair, and there's myself and my wife. And it's 2 of us, and that's how we started. And we had 2 engineers, and she used to look after the office side, and I was on the road doing the selling. And we started, you know, with 4 or 5 installs, and then, mashallah, from 2 engineers, within 6 weeks, 8 weeks, we went to 4 engineers and 5 engineers. So it sort of rapidly increased.
Fantastic. And so to the point of now, talking 2020, you've got how many engineers?
So now, so when we first started, we were probably doing approximately the first year, I think, starting, we did about 500-600 boiler installs. And that was just myself doing the selling on the road with the engineers that we had. And then it sort of increased. A lot of people couldn't understand what we was doing. You know, boiler manufacturers, when we were asking them for guarantees and extra warranties and everything, they didn't think that anyone could do something or mimic something like British Gas, if you like, because they were the biggest, doing 140,000 boilers a year. That's a massive amount. So it took them a bit of understanding what we're about and what we could potentially could do. And then going back to sort of Dudley Road, we started in this 12-foot by 12-foot room on the second floor, and we was there for, in the second year, if you imagine Dudley Road, the shops Dudley Road, you've got a shop front, then you've got a kitchen at the back, and behind that you've got the toilet. And in this premises where there's originally the middle floor, we then went down to the shop floor where there's about 4 of us working. And incidentally, one of those guys is still with me today. But we converted the kitchen into an office. We converted the downstairs toilet into an office, along with all the other floors. And from Dudley Road, we had about 25 people working from there. And all the neighbours were complaining. So all the scenario and so on, because the road was full of our vehicles and our vans and our vehicles, and they were complaining, saying, "Yo, what's going on here? There's nowhere for us to park, etc., etc." And then I think 3 years later, we then moved on to Marston Road, next to Crown Quilting. There's a building there, and we went there. I think it's 2003. And I remember going back to Dudley Road.
Sorry, I'll tell you what, Nadeem.
Yes.
What we're going to do, we're going to go into a short ad break
Already?
now. And then what we'll do, we'll come straight back and jump straight into it. So, guys, see you shortly. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the next session with myself, Arsh, Ellahi, and I'm here today with our guest, Nadeem. Hi, Nadeem.
Hello, everyone.
So quickly, wrapping up then, Nadeem. So where were we before we break? You'd just gone from Dudley Road to Marston Road.
To Marston Road, yeah. I need to wrap this up very quickly because Arsh is telling me we're running out of time and I'm talking too much. So I'm going to give you a very quick 2-minute wrap up. So we was at Marston Road, next to Crown Quilting. Again, the business was doing exceptionally, mashallah, well. And then in 2013, we then moved to Techno Road, the old Beacon radio station. We've got between 80 to 90 people in total. That includes engineers, service engineers, office staff at this present moment in time working for us. We're primarily doing gas boilers, private markets, and the eco boiler. So the eco boiler is a government scheme where you can have a new boiler fitted if you're on certain benefits. Cavity wall installation.
So just quickly touching on that. So if any of our listeners are on claiming some level of benefit.
Yeah, child tax credit, working tax credit, pension credit, anything ending the word name credit. So anyone who's got parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, anyone, uncles, aunties, anywhere in the country as well, not just Wolverhampton, that are on some kind of benefit, and the benefit they're on ends in the word credit, then go on to www.northerngasheating.com. I think that's the right one, but if anyone any of my staff member is listening, please phone or text to correct the URL.
Yeah, so if you're getting some form of credit, so as long as it ends in credit, they're eligible to what, a replacement boiler, or is it an upgrade to a boiler, or is it
replacement boiler?
Okay,
I'm not sure how you can upgrade a boiler.
Well, if you've got an old boiler,
so it's a replacement boiler.
Yeah, okay, so replacement. Yeah. But if they've got no central heating, if it's an all electric property, do they do anything for that?
Absolutely. So if it's an all electric property, again, get in contact with us. That can be changed to a full heating system. But the conditions are you've got to be on some form of credit, and you must be the homeowner.
Right.
So
okay.
it's not applicable for landlords. So sorry, Arsh, I can't do your properties. You've got people on benefits. But it's not applicable to landlords or tenants. or social housing, council houses, is for private homeowners.
Right, okay.
So any private homeowner,
Previously, there were grants available, wasn't there?
previously there were, and I think there will be in time to come.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's all for homeowners.
Okay, so in a nutshell, you've kind of got an indication as to what Nadeem does. So what we're going to do, we're going to give you now, for the next 20 minutes, some golden nuggets, shall we say. Some golden nuggets. So if you've got a question or if you've got some advice that you want asking or you want to ask for some advice, feel free to WhatsApp us on 07440 420 432. So if you were to start again, Nadeem, think about it from the eyes and the ears of a listener now, what would you do differently?
I would probably study much harder and would have become a doctor.
Right, okay. So
No, seriously.
that's a different type of gas that you'd be studying.
No, seriously, what would I do differently? I don't think I would do anything different to what I did. What does the age, the time doesn't really matter. What matters is the concept. So what is it you want to do? Look at that and to explore it. Is there a market for that concept or for that idea? And that's not, you don't need stupid amounts of money or anything. You just need your time, in all fairness, sometimes. Your time and your commitment, your dedication. So what is it someone wants to do? Do they have something that they think is good? If they think something is good, then how can they explore that? So you build yourself like a business plan.
Well, I talked last week about identifying what is your USP, your
absolutely.
unique selling point.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your USP? What is it you want? And doesn't matter whether it's business. It doesn't matter if you're, a surgeon or a footballer or anyone. Everything is all to do with dedication, commitment, and hard work. So if you look at all the top sportsmen in the world.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because there's a...
What, you're a top sportsman?
No. I wish I was. Okay. I wish I was. And but there's a program on a very well-known streaming program.
Yeah.
And it's about a very well-known, world-known basketball player. Okay. I'm not sure if I can mention his name or anything, so I won't, just to make sure. But it talks about he wasn't the best player when he started. Mm-hmm. But what he did do is that he outworked everyone in that field, and he became the number one basketball player of his generation. And he turned a team that was completely failing into world champions.
Yeah. And I think that's the difference, isn't it? The difference is there. It's your dedication and your commitment, your ethics. If people just sit at home and think, I want this, well, wanting isn't. It doesn't mean that you're going to get it. What are you going to do to get that want, to fulfill that want?
Nadeem, you've got a fan.
Have I? Who's
my
fan?
He goes, Salam, bro. My name's Yaqub.
Oh, Yaqub.
He goes, can you ask Nadeem when he'll be playing cricket again, please? Because I'm a big fan of his fast bowling. Are you a bit of a cricket fan?
Am I a cricket fan?
Yeah.
I'm a cricket fan. He's Yaqub. Everybody knows him. He's from Darlaston.
You sounded like you're from East is East, then.
Everybody know me. No, that's Mr.
Khan.
Mr. Khan. That's not East is East. No, I enjoy cricket. I play cricket for a club called Claverley.
Okay.
I'm no fast bowler. That's him trying to be a smart aleck.
Right, okay.
But no, I enjoy cricket. There's no season, obviously due to COVID, there's no season taking place now. But
no, fair enough. Okay, so back to business. Tip point.
Back to business.
So we went.
You go well done yet again for interrupting a civilised conversation that was taking place.
So going back, so determination, motivation.
Yeah, dedication.
Yeah. Okay.
Commitment. So nothing's going to happen by sitting at home doing nothing. You can't excel or exceed in anything unless you work at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back, what makes you different? What makes you different? Because if you're going to set up another closed business, for argument's sake, and let's just use Dudley Road.
I wouldn't know about closed business, because I wasn't involved with closed.
But if someone was to say, well, I'm going to open up another closed business, and I'm going to go right in the heart of Wolverhampton where the Asian community is, and we're going to go onto Dudley Road.
Yeah.
What makes you different to the guys that have already been there 20 years? Because, as they say, most businesses fail, 80% of businesses fail within the first 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I think the difference now difference now is social media.
Yeah.
So if you think about when we set up businesses, it's different look and feel. We didn't have social media. You didn't have Google or anything. It was newspapers, Yellow Pages, Thompson Local, leaflet dropping.
Yeah.
That kind of advertising. Now, I think for people, I should imagine it's probably even easier to set up a business now.
It's easier, but the competition is more fierce. Would you agree? Well, the competition is more fierce because everyone can do a Facebook ad, everyone can do a Google ad, everyone can employ a marketing strategizer that can literally.
So it goes back to the old saying, which is USP.
Yep, and one of the examples that I used last week is that if you've got a corner shop and you sell bread, milk, and eggs, so does Tesco, so does Asda, so do all the other supermarkets. But they'll come back to you because they know you.
Yeah.
And so, this is what makes you different.
Yeah. Relationships and everything. But I think setting up business or setting up a concept, it's much easier. There's fundings and streams available.
And this is a good point, because if someone is looking to set up a business, and this is a business and a property show, don't be afraid. Did you have any backing of your parents? Or
No.
I say to tell everyone what we do, and tell everyone, don't be afraid to tell everyone what you do.
Yeah. No, we didn't. I didn't have the backing of. I had the duars on my parents and everything, but regards finances, didn't really need it because we're sort of clever in what we did, in the sense of, if you remember in those days, what did an office need? It needed a fax machine, a photocopier, desk and chairs. And the most expensive thing, I think, was a photocopier and a fax machine. And if you recall, well, you won't recall because you're only 30.
Yeah, no, I remember a fax machine, I remember a photocopier.
No, but if you recall, in those days, they used to do free trials.
Yes, they did.
They did. So it's
Was it Mitre?
I can't remember who it was, but so you didn't really need a big investment because you just used to take the free trials for 3 months and just keep swapping.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's it. And you've just got to be a little bit savvy about it. And to be fair, if you were to start up at a shop, let's just say a clothing shop, potentially, if you're smart enough again, and if your negotiation skills are up to scratch, you could negotiate, large credit terms, so 30, 60, 90 days, and then it just means that within that period, you've got to get selling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think social media makes it easier for people to get themselves known, heard, and their presence. You still need to have a USP, whether that USP is you, an idea, a concept, something new to the market, and then what you're going to do to push it out. So you're more in people's faces nowadays, and that USP could be you yourself as a person. We see on social media, Twitter, and so on.
Let me ask you the question then. What makes you different? What makes you different to all the other people out there?
I think for us now more so, it's our reputation and credibility. So we've been there as a business. On a business-wise, we've been there and around much longer, 20 years. This year, Marshall, it's our 20 years of trading. I opened a training centre in 2005, a gas and electrical training centre, which was never heard of, where was able to train guys from out of the industry to become gas engineers in the industry. So since 2005, that's been operational now 15 years. And mashallah, we've probably trained about 8,000 people in around Wolverhampton area. I would probably say majority are Upper Asians. So people from Dudley, Darlaston, Wolverhampton, etc. So a lot of the gas engineers that you see nowadays that have been in their trade for a number of years have probably come from the training centre that was set up. So,
and what was it? What was the idea behind the training centre? Was it to train people so that they could become engineers for your company, or was it? Yeah.
So
was that the motivation?
Yeah. The intention was to train people to become engineers for my company, but the business, Marshall, became so good that it became a standalone business in itself.
Yeah.
So the concept, the marketing, the idea was phenomenal. And again, it all involves selling. And this was giving someone a skill and a trade to become a gas engineer.
Is that what you thrive on? So I suppose from our conversation so far, one of the highlights that's come out of it is that you like the sale. You like the interaction of the customer. Do you still give like for me personally, even though I've been doing this a long time, even when I've done a property deal and, you know, you've walked out, it's exactly the same when you go out and you meet a homeowner and you've done the deal whilst you've been sat on their sofa drinking their tea, etc. You come out the front door and you give yourself a bit of fist pump.
Yeah.
Does that adrenaline still?
Not really, because I don't go and see customers anymore. I haven't seen customers for a long, long time. But what I'm able to do and what I have done over the years is pass my knowledge. So what I've learnt on selling to people that work for me. You know, there's a guy that works for me, a good brother, Cash Hussein, who's been with me since 2007, 2008. And he still goes out, sees customers, and mashallah, he does extremely well. And the reason being is because everything I taught him, he still does to this day and age. So nothing ever changes. The concept always remains the same, the idea of selling, etc. Would I go and see customers in our homes now? No, because it doesn't sort of excite me anymore. There's other things I have to do now as a director of the business. Would I still have the ability to go and see and sell in the customer's home? Yeah, I think I would, but in a different way. You know, in the younger days, I was proper cheeky and sort of arrogant, but always communicate, have that rapport with the customer. Now, I suppose my selling techniques will be totally different to what they were back in 94, 95.
I don't know, actually.
No.
Because it's interesting. When you have a certain skill, there's something that you never forget.
Well,
and then let's just use an example. Everyone at some point has seen an episode of Only Fools and Horses.
Yeah, Del Boy and Rodney.
Yeah. So, you know, we all start out as that cheeky chappy that goes out and putting their best foot forward. For me, it's that I love the thrive. I love the drive of it. I love the. It's great seeing all the figures and everything at the end of the month, but the fact that I like that negotiation. For me, sitting behind the desk is I can't. That's not for me.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think I don't like sitting behind a desk, but unfortunately, the way the business is, it dictates where I need to be behind a desk or in that kind of office environment. But to go and see people in their homes and to sell a heating system or a solar PV system, you know, another thing that we're doing is smart home technology, etc. That's not for me. I like to try and get the idea.
So I suppose what you're trying to, in a nutshell, what you're saying is that you now spend your time, and one of the key points that I've put here today is you like working on the business. Yeah. No longer in the business.
Yeah, I think, absolutely. It's more so on the business. 20 years is a long, long time.
Yeah.
And mashallah, what we've achieved in 20 years, and there's ups and downs. It's never, ever been smooth sailing. It's not been profits after profits after profits and everything's been rosy-cozy. There's been ups and downs with the business, as there is with any business, no matter what size it is. But the main thing is still being there, survival of the fittest, so to speak. Still believing in what you have and knowing that, you know, with the right dedication, commitment, work and staff, you can keep going forward and turn things around.
I suppose what you've created as well is also a very sustainable market and industry.
Yeah.
If, for argument's sake, the benefit market is always going to remain, would you agree?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It will always. We're very blessed to.
Well, in fact, it might even grow now with COVID.
Absolutely. So with COVID now, that reported that there's there was definitely 1 million claims that were made.
They're on about potentially another 2 million, aren't they?
Absolutely.
That will be unemployed.
Yeah.
So if you need a new boiler.
Will you stop pitching? Khaled, what are you telling? So let's keep moving on. So, would you say? So you're spending a lot of time working on the business, not in the business. You know, I've put a point here is that never to become what I would call a busy fool, and you can fall into that trap. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think we all, from time to time, do become busy fools as well.
Yeah, we absolutely. You know, I'm classic example. You know, sometimes I do the smallest of things. And my brother and business partner says, "What the hell are you doing?" He goes, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you doing that?" He goes, "If you look at your and you've got to treat yourself. You've got to create your own worth. Well, you've got to make sure that you know what your worth is. You know, if you look at what I probably charge an hour, and some of the tasks that I sometimes end up doing, and this goes back to probably the control side of it. My brother and business partner goes, "Arsh, let go, let go." He goes, "Let them do it. That's what we're paying them for." And I said, "But they can't do it as good as me." And give you an example. Tenant calls into the office, and the guys at the front end, and they're very good at their role. But I said to him, "Did that convert into a let, or did that convert into a let? Why not? I would have converted that." So yeah, you can become a business.
But when you reach a certain stage of a business, you know, when it grows beyond just you as that business that does everything from the bookkeeping to the cleaning. And
when
everything.
You start out, you will become the CEO. You'll be the finance director. You'll be the marketing director. You'll be the cleaner. You'll be the person that hoovers. You'll be the person that starts at the front. You're the person that opens up and the person that locks up.
As soon as you get a team and the team grows to a significant number, that's when you have to relinquish tasks and duties and rely upon them to fulfill them. They won't probably do it as best that you would do it, but they'll do it as good as their own ability allows them to.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is probably one thing that I'm going to put this out there, but lots of Asian business owners don't do. They don't write systems and procedures.
Don't they?
Eh?
do they? Don't they? I mean,
well, I don't know. Well, let's just use the example.
Yes.
Let's just go back to a corner shop, or let's go to a shop or a retail.
Yeah.
Do you think that they've got system procedures and
what system would they need? They probably need a health and safety poster. I should imagine they've probably got that.
The POS or the retail? Do they have something to? I don't know. Again,
but I think if
it's definitely all up there in the head.
I think sometimes we don't give our own people the credit that they.
I very much agree.
They need. We just see them like you're saying now, a corner shop person. You know, a corner shop person is a different kind of business, if you like, to say that of yours, or
of course,
or Rash that was on last week, etc. So I think it's all scalability. If we look at a white person with a shop, you know, Brewers on Dudley Road that has been there forever. And I think every Asian family from Wolverhampton has probably bought some kind of sewing machine from this guy. I don't know if he's still alive, by the way, but I don't think he would have had some policies or procedures or anything. So I think we need to put things in perspective when it comes to Asians and their businesses and the size of their business. Certain sizes of businesses will determine what procedures and policies that you need in place.
Yeah, but it's good to have from the outset.
Yeah.
So if you're growing the business from the ground up and you're starting, I'd say get it on the right level because, you know, God willing, it's going to go to a point. You know, we talk of Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon started from a shed.
Yeah.
Amazon started from a shed. Little did he know, he's now one of the world's richest men, Jeff Bezos. Yeah. So in that respect, he started with a vision. And with that vision, he started and he just kept growing it. So if you write the procedures down as you go along, and these are things. Now, you don't have to be there with a pen and pad. One thing I will say is that we've all got these lovely things called smartphones. Yeah. So you can literally dictate it in a voice note, and then you can get someone to transcribe it for you. So don't feel pressured. And sometimes when I'm doing stuff, you know, all the YouTube videos and all the stuff that we do, I literally just dictate it into my phone and I'll send it off to someone over in Malaysia or somewhere in a different country, and it'll come back to me within a few hours, all ready to go. So and the one thing I should say is that don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. If there's tasks that you think that needs to be doing, you've got to ask yourself, who can do this as well? Yeah. Who can do this and who can probably do the same kind of caliber, if not better? And there are people that will do it better than you. Yeah,
and I think the most important thing is if it's not broken, don't fix it. Don't change
Absolutely. It. You know, all the businesses in the world today, no one has reinvented anything. No. All they've done is they've looked at it and they've put their own spin on it.
That was a bit of your Black Country coming out then. All they've done.
All they've done. So everything is literally just a slightly better version of something that's already been reinvented. That's been invented.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Keep true to yourself, I think, is the most important thing. And it's that dedication and commitment. The policies and procedures are important, depending on the size and what you need to do. But it's the blessings of our parents. We can't forget. That's
Yep.
the biggest one.
They're the foundations.
They're the foundation.
They're the foundations. What we do with those foundations, it can go off in complete different ways. Like if you look at the foundations that my parents set me, my dad, God rest his soul, he used to say, don't tell anyone what you do.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone what you do because they'll copy your idea and then they'll try and overtake you.
Yeah.
And
But that's just human mentality.
I suppose.
Don't tell me it's Asian mentality. Are you going to say it's Asian mentality?
I did think it was Asian mentality, if I'm honest.
I think it's a human mentality. It's I'm not sure if it's greed or that person who wants to do better for themselves.
I'm always happy to see people do well. Yeah. Extremely happy, especially if it's someone that I know, and more important, if I've helped them to get there, even better. Yeah. So that's why I always say in the show, if you've got any questions, feel free to fire away. And there's no holds barred on these shows. Yeah. I want to try to give as much value as possible so that you guys can get off. Because I say this time and time again, Asian people, we're so talented. We're so talented.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and we just don't. Sometimes we just don't know our worth. Yeah, and we sometimes don't put ourselves out there enough because we're worried about what people say. Yeah. We're worried about failure, which is a massive thing. Yeah. And when we talk about failure can knock our self-confidence. But a lot of things is what are other people going to say.
I think the biggest issue for Asians, if anything, is probably criticism. So we're very quick to judge others.
Absolutely.
Without even looking at ourselves. So we're quick to criticise others. We're quick to judge others, prejudge others. And I think in a way, people want people to fail. And I think that's the biggest issue of potentially the society that we live in. And maybe it's because what you just said there, your late father said to you, don't tell people what you're doing yourself because you're scared that someone else will take the idea. Well, if you've got your du'as from your parents and your niyat and your workings and everything is all good and gracious and you're humble to everything that you're doing, then your rizq will be your rizq.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what someone's trying to take, they won't take. And if it's meant to be for you, it's meant to be for you.
Completely agree. Whatever we're going to do, it was written for us. Yeah. It was written for us. But I suppose, to be fair, can you believe that's an hour and a half?
Really, and we're not even got started. Really.
Yeah, no, we've got a few. Is that okay? So I suppose what we should say is that if anyone wants to get in contact or if they want to, know more about you, where can they get hold of you?
So you can call 01902 972 150, or you can WhatsApp Ramadan Radio on 0744 0420
Fantastic. And then what you can do, feel free, and then we'll try and put you in contact. More importantly, hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Hopefully you've taken a lot away from it. More importantly, we're hoping that you're enjoying Ramadan. We're hoping that you're staying safe.